04 Chevy Suburban. Very common code on a transfer case, C0327 encoder circuit. This is the all-wheel drive system, and let's just look at the some data here. Now the circuits are very similar to a power neutral switch, where you basically have like 4 wires. Now there's another system that has a potentiometer. This one is different. This one has 4 wires, where each wire actually designated for a certain position where the transfer case is locked in. And let's just customize it here, and got a circuit C, P, A, and B, and you can see that this one says on every of them. Every single one of them says on, which you know, I guess it's wrong, of course. Get on here. Let's look at the diagram real quick. Now, so there's 2 different transfer cases. I have there's a 2-speed automatic and all-wheel drive. Mine is all-wheel drive, and when we're looking at the encoder, basically it's down at the transfer case motor itself. It's like the same, it's one unit, and we have a shift motor, transfer case encoder motor. Everything is connected to a transfer case shifter control module, and we got 2 circuits here. That's for the motor. The computer applies the powers and grounds to the motor. Now our problem lies here. As I said, we have A, P, B, and C circuit, and you can see we have this black and white wire that supplies the ground. This is a pull-down system, pull-down design. So basically, it works the same as a power neutral switch. Whichever the position this switch is, it's going to drop the voltage down, and it's going to indicate in what position this transfer case is locked in. Now we're going to check all these wires. We should this dark blue. So basically, circuit A, P, B, and C should have some kind of voltage on it, and then we should have a ground on this black and white wire. You're going to unplug this. We'll see what we're going to do, and we'll go from there. The service 4-wheel drive message is on. There's nothing on my the no lights illuminate on the switches. When I turn it back on, you can see it will illuminate for the short while, and then it goes out and stays out. So next step, you're going to go down under the truck, get to the transfer case, and do some checks at the wiring. Okay, I'm at the transfer case. Here's our motor and the decoder here. Everything is in this unit. Here's the connector. Now when you look at the diagram, don't get confused. Don't look at the color on the wires on a motor side. Look at on the harness side, because they're not the same. They can confuse you big time. Now I'm on a brown and white wire. It's one of the signal wires, and I'm reading 4.6 volts. A little less than what I should expect. I would sort of like see like 4.9 or 5 volts. For some reason I have 4.6, and now I'm going to take a as you can see, we got everything is on. I'm going to take a test light. I have to connect it to the bottom of the ground, and I'm going to touch it here. You can see I have this pin pulled out a little bit, and I can actually lower the voltage down. And you can see this is a circuit, what's this, P, and it says off. I got my ground off the circuit. I'm going to ground it again. Okay, and it says off again. I'm sorry for the camera, but it's kind of awkward. Let's go to the next signal wire. I'm at pink and white, I believe. Again, 4.6. I'm going to ground this circuit a couple of times, and then we're going to look at the scan tool. You can see I'm grounding this circuit. So we're going to see which circuit is this one. And we are at circuit C. That works. I'm at blue and white, 4.6 same voltage. I'm going to ground this circuit a couple of times. that is a circuit A. I'm having a hard time on this yellow and black wire. I'm reading 4.6 again. I have to hold it. Okay, it's working now. So let's see if I can touch it and ground it again. And that should be circuit B, I believe. That's okay. I just pierced it with, back probe it with my with my test light, and that is a circuit B. So we know that all the circuits are working. The module is receiving the signal when we ground the circuits down. It's kind of weird that I would say at this point the circuits are open, sending a high voltage, and they're saying on. I would expect it to be vice versa. I would expect to see when the switch is in closed position that would be on, and there would be a low voltage. I hope this makes sense. So anyhow, we have a high voltage on each of the wires, basically meaning that all the switches are open, but the scan tool says on. I'm a little confused with that. But anyhow, now the last wire we need, now the other tools, the black and red, we know that's for the motor. You can see much thicker wire, carries a lot more current. The next one will be a black and white. Checking a ground, we should say you could have a 0 or near 0 volts at this wire, and we have a 4.6 volts. For some reason I am not supplying ground to this wire here. It's a black and white. It's supposed to be 0 volts. Let's look at the diagram one more time. So essentially this works same as park neutral switch. Every time you switch your shifter into different gear, park, neutral, reverse, one of these switches is going to close and it's going to change the voltage, and then a transmission control module will know in what position you have your shifter locked in. Same with this one. It should be indicating one of these circuits should be low, indicating in what position its transfer case is locked in. Now we know they're red and black. That's for the motor. There you can see the thicker wires. So what we did actually, we checked all of these wires here, brown and white, blue and white, yellow, black, red and white, and they all had a 4.5 volts, which is very unusual. I would expect to see 5 or 4.9 volts. And by grounding each of these wires here, basically supplying the ground, we did see the change on our scan tool, indicated that all these wires are fine. But they're fine anyway because you got a voltage, but you want to make sure they're not, short to power somewhere. And by touching with a test light, we're able to drop the voltage down, meaning that everything is okay from that perspective. Again, I'm confused why the scan tool is, now we know that all the switches are actually open because all of them have high voltage on it, and why the scan tool is saying the circuit is on, all the circuits are on, which really kind of bizarre to me. Next, we checked a ground wire. It's a black and white. Again, I want to check that one more time, and you can see that it is encoder low. This is supposed to supply ground, and one of these switches, when it's closed, it will drop this, voltage down. Unfortunately, I do not have a ground here. I have a same voltage as we have on all of these signal wires, and now we could potentially, well, even if we have a short to a one of these wires, we would still have a 0 on our ground, and so it's very unusual to see that, of course. And it seems like we have some issues with this guy here. And we're going to check the power and ground. There's only one power, and that's orange wire, and only one ground. It's this big black wire. Basically, they're going to be on the same connector, connector 3, C3, that supplies the power to a motor. Just they're going to be a 4-wire connector, and so I don't have any other ground or any other supply, power supply. This is the only one here that goes to, this goes to a our transfer case control switch, and then let's say they got 2 more fuses here, and that goes to a 4-wheel drive indicator lamp, and splice. This is class A data, so nothing. I mean, this is only one power and ground. I'm gonna check that, make sure we have that going, and then we'll go from there. Now before we do that, I'm going to manually supply a ground to this wire here and see if anything's going to change down on these signals on our scan tool once I manually supply the ground to the black and white wire. Now I'm still measuring the voltage on the ground wire on black and white. I'm going to touch this with my test light just to see if I can drop it down to 0. And I can. And all right, let's just take a test light. I'm gonna back probably with this test light and see if anything happens. So again, I see when I touch this now, we have a ground. I'm gonna back probe one of these signal wires. And now I get 4.3, that's interesting, from 4.9. 4.3, 4.3. Take the ground out. I'm going to disconnect it from the ground. 4.6. Connect the ground again. 4.3. Huh. Alright, well, nothing has changed, and none of the switches have changed the, even the ground applied to a ground wire. Oh, nothing has changed here. So, is it possible that we have the problem with the switch itself as well? I'm just going to take a mallet and maybe kind of hit it a little bit, see if there's... What's this? Isn't that crazy? So the circuit B is now off. That, if I remember, it's a black and white, I believe. So we have a double problem here. We have a problem with the ground not being supplied to a to our circuit and our decoder, and as well as mechanical, issue with the motor itself, with the signal itself. It's actually yellow and black. It's a circuit B. It's still off. So at this point, we should be able to clear the codes and do all the stuff, and the code should not come back anymore. But then we have to still figure out why we're not having a ground on this black and white wire. This is two problems. And just to be clear, as soon as I remove the ground with my test light, that circuit B goes on again. Okay, I'm in a truck. You can see I got no lights on my switches here, and I got a service forward drive illuminated. And so far, again, I'm not sure if this is correct or not, but now we can see there is a change on this circuit B, which I assume that's the way it should be when works. Okay, so let's just go ahead and shut it off and turn it back on and see if the at least these lights stays on lit. Alright, well, that's a good sign. The light is on, and let's see if that code comes back or not. Okay, it did not come back. So again, we're still good here. So now the computer is happy the way it sees the data. Now we know that our problem, is the motor itself, and seems like problem with I'm not sure if it's a module or it has to be something with the module, because if if I have an open in that ground wire, I would not have any kind of voltage on it, so somehow it's shorted somewhere internally, looks like. The display codes, current codes, no codes present, so it kind of cleared itself right away. Okay, let's do some checks at the at our module now. Now it is not uncommon for these you know, the motor to go out on the transfer case, because like, especially this is automatic system, it doesn't do anything until, you know, it does everything automatically. It's a rear wheel drive all the time, and if it senses slippage on the front wheels, it will kick in all wheel drive, and that motor just doesn't work, and that switch inside never moves. It kind of get frozen in it. So, you know, I'm hoping that's going to work itself out. I'm going to activate and deactivate the four-wheel drive and all that to get the motor moving later on, but now we need to figure out why we don't have the ground on this module. Now the module is this little guy here. It leaves right above the brake pedal in this bracket here, and we have these four big wires here. They are main power and ground, and power supply to a transfer case motor. Now we know the red one supplies the power to the motor. The orange should be power, and I have my the headlight bulb connected to a ground, and when I touch that wire, the orange wire should light up, and it does. Okay. Now one of these black ones is a ground. I'm not sure which one it is, but I'm just gonna flip this to a positive. I absolutely love this Power Probe extension cord. It works so well. And we're just going to briefly touch one of these black ones and see which one is ground. Alright, that's the ground. Alright, good power, good ground. And now here's my black and white wire here, where I'm supposed to have a ground. This guy here. It's the this green connector. And let's take the light bulb, see what happens. Okay, here's my bulb that's connected to a where's the battery positive, and then it's back probed on that black and white wire right there, and it's not lighting up for me. I'm not having a ground coming from a module. Unfortunately, I have a good power and ground at the module itself, but the module, it's not supplying ground to this circuit. And then of course switch doesn't work inside the transfer case. The last thing we have to do is to check our connector, make sure that's, you know, the female connectors that's nothing broken inside of it, and if that's okay, this thing is junk. Here's my connector. I really don't see much at all. This is the one for my ground. I use these little fine picks, and say it's a little inconclusive. It seems like it's a little looser. I can poke this deeper than I can do on the other ones. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to use a very fine pick and just to push this toward the you know, middle a little bit more. And if that doesn't help, then we're going to open up the module and see if I can solder, if I can see anything broken on the on my motherboard. Unfortunately, these motors are not cheap at all. That didn't work after I tightened down the female connector. Still no ground, and I'm gonna open up the module, see if I can maybe just find that pin and just to touch it with a hot iron and see if that helps any or not. Just to check this ground wire, I've got the connector unplugged from the module, and I connected a ground wire down at that connector at the transfer case to ground, and now I have my bulb connected to battery positive. I'm going to touch the connector slightly. Okay, so the wire is fine. Take it out, take it off. So anyhow, seems like my module is just not, it's not working right. I got my ground wire connected to ground at the connector down at the transfer case. I'm gonna touch this guy again. You can see lights up, and then I'm gonna follow the circuit up to this point. Lights up as well. This tells me is, you know, the connector is fine, and soldering this pin, it's not gonna do any good at all. It's just not supplying the ground it's supposed to. And this module is done. Well, that's interesting. I was playing with the switch, and I was able to shift to 4 low, and now I am having a ground on that black and white wire. The module is supplying the ground to it. You can see I'm actually checking the voltage. Voltage is a little high because of the light bulb, but right now I'm on that black and white wire, and it's supplying the ground to it. That's really crazy. I'm clueless now. I mean, no question, you're supposed to have a ground all the time for the switches to work, but it doesn't do it every time. Now you can see with a 4 low we have a circuit P is off and circuit A is off. In a park, you know, or rear wheel drive, the circuit B was the only one that was off. So why the module is not supplying the ground all the time, it beats me. Let's see what happens now when I go back to a go back to park, and and I just lost my ground. And my switches are all back to the same they used to be, even though I am in a 4-wheel drive right now. So yeah, this module is just stupid. It sucks. Let's see, now it's gonna go back to normal state because it doesn't know what it's doing, because it doesn't have a ground. Shut it back off. This is really interesting. Internally, this module is just not working the way it's supposed to. Now the trouble is the module can't do anything because it has no inputs in it. And if I'd be stuck in a 4-wheel drive, that'd be nice. Let me shut back off and oh, there you go. Okay, so I was in let's shift this in drive. Okay. Alright, so this is supplying the ground only when it is in neutral. Run nothing, park nothing. Let's go back to so why it's not supplying the ground that in fact right now the computer is blind. I mean, everything is on. It doesn't show the position where the transfer case is. I've never seen anything like it. Alright, I was able to get back to all-wheel drive again, And anyhow, I'm still now. You know, these same codes again came up. This module is junk, and it's not supplying the ground when it's supposed to. Soldering the motherboard, it's not gonna do any good, because when I had my ground, when I was checking my motherboard, I had a ground wire connected to ground. I was able to trace it all the way across the motherboard, and it's fine. And so why this thing is supplying ground only in neutral, it beats me. I have no idea. So right now, you know, now my light is off, and actually I'm in neutral right now, and it's still now it's not supplying anything at all. It's this scanner kills me. The this OBD took, and I need to change this. It's broken here. It's gives me a hard time. Anyhow, long story short, this is the end of it. I need a new module. Fortunately, those are like a 200 bucks, and it's not cheap. So I may actually, this is my car, so I'm just gonna drive in two-wheel drive. I might jump the ground wire, supply the ground to it, and drive it like that. But you know, it's not. It's a module problem now for sure. So maybe there's maybe because the module itself is able to supply the ground, maybe it needs to be reflashed. Maybe it's some kind of I have to look TSBs and see if that's the case. Maybe I need to go to a dealership and reflash this module and see if that helps or not. But I mean, the trouble with this cable, as soon as I touch it, it loses the communication, so it sucks. So anyhow, now see, there you go. So this is interesting. Now it has no codes. The light's back on, and I still don't have a ground. I mean, this is all screwed up. I don't understand this at all. Now let's go ahead and look at the data now. Just out of blue, you know, light came out and came on, and now it's let's see. And everything is, of course, on because there is no ground to it. As we know, the circuit B is supposed to be off, but now it's not flagging the code for, you know, it's it's just really bizarre. Now it supplies the ground. When it doesn't have active code, it supplies the ground only at when it's in neutral. And now, of course, we can see here my circuit B is off, and that's what we have when we have a constant, you know, ground applied to that. I don't know why it's doing this. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. Of course, now I can switch to 4 low. These guys will change status. Switch it back to high. But this whole time now I have a ground. Okay, I have to stop beating around the bushes now. I'm in neutral. I was, you know, moving my transfer motor, and then in the middle of it I lost the ground on my signal wire, and now it's a go. So, you know, now we got the same where we used to be before, and display codes 327. It's just this module is junk. I mean, it's like let's see if I can clear the codes real quick. And immediately as I clear the codes, the ground comes back on. And this is really bizarre. Now we're back on and off on the circuit B. So okay, so now I still have a ground. Let's just do this a couple more times to see if I lose the ground again. So right now it's working fine, you know, switching from high to low. And because everything's working okay right now in neutral. Okay, now I just lost the ground. See that? And now my light is blinking in 4 high, and it's okay. So this is definitely, so we lost our communication again with our switch. Everything's back to on. Okay, this is it. Definitely a issue with. Let's just see now what kind of codes. It's 739, yeah, encoder circuit. It's because it has no ground. Of course, it's not. It's going to have a. So to clear the codes. Let's see. And now my ground is back. This is crazy. And of course, my data will come back. I have never seen anything like this before. Alright, let's do this one more time. Just keep switching from high to low. I mean, I know that my motor works fine, and my input switches are okay. It's just this ground, it's not. The problem is when I look now. There you go. All of a sudden, you start to blink. Lost the ground. I lost the communication. Well, it's because of skin tool. And now it's, I don't know, this is not right. Huh. See that it blinks like momentarily when I turn the key on. It blinks the ground, gives the ground, but it's not keeping the ground on. Now I have to clear the codes. There you go. I've been driving the truck now for a good 30-45 minutes and everything's fine. Absolutely no codes. My light is still on. Everything is functioning, even though I still don't have a ground on my signal wire. And so how all of a sudden, I mean, I have not done anything. That module is back in, there's nothing there, nothing down under the truck. How this works now, why is it working? I have no clue. Well, I do now, but it took me a little while to kind of actually think about that. Well, sometimes being a part changer, you know, it's better because they will fix this thing in 20 minutes. They would go down and change the motor, be done with it. Of course, you want to make sure that everything is, the wiring is fine. It's the first time I've seen the circuit that works this way. When we were checking our voltage down at the transfer case, and we had a high voltage on all 4 circuits, and when I hit it with a mallet, we could see, like, first what I did, I used a test light, you know, drop the voltage down to make sure that all the circuits were able to see that change on a scan tool. You know, it was receiving the input. Then I checked the ground wire, no ground wire. Apply the ground, still no changes, still all of those switches were on. With the ground applied, I hit it with a mallet, all of a sudden circuit B went down to off. That was the problem. So I'm thinking having two problems: no ground and a switch that was stuck in on position. And then, you know, you can get yourself in a rabbit hole quickly if you don't understand how the system works. Again, I've never seen one design like this. However, I finally figured it out. If you remember, when I was cycling, when I was finally able to get a ground, I don't even know how I did that. I was kind of shifting stuff around, whatever, and finally when I shifted in neutral, I noticed that I have a ground. So the computer is seeing those inputs from the coder. However, in any other mode, you know, park, neutral, whatever, it's not there because the ground is gone. But if you remember, at one point when I had my light connected to my light bulb connected to my ground, when I cycled the key, that light bulb lit momentarily. Okay, well, that's the time when the computer was actually checking the circuits. And you know, I was thinking maybe why and how does it know, unless you know, in neutral, how that, you know, it was flagging the code. I mean, this thing, you can see at the beginning the light wasn't on. I said, how does it know that it has a problem on the coder if it has no ground on it? It doesn't receive any kind of input from those switches. It does pretty much in a split second. When you see that little light flash, that's when the transfer case module sent a ground to check those circuits, and it didn't like it because the circuit B was on, and that's why it flagged the code. Now you can see right now truck is running, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to go under, I'm going to unplug the motor completely, and then we're going to see what kind of actually code we're going to set on the our cluster. As you can see right now, I have codes. Okay, let's go ahead and unplug it. Okay, see the wire there? Okay, let's go around. Light is still on the switch, but we've got a service four-wheel drive. Let's check the code. Go back. Current code. Motor AB circuit malfunction. C0327. It does not care because it doesn't see anything from the coder, because it's not sending the ground to see what's going on. It's crazy. That's what it's it's so funny. Okay, let's go back again, and now let's go ahead and switch the shifter in neutral and see if it's going to apply the ground, and see if it's going to flag any other codes or not. Got me neutral. Let's go current codes. Still the same. Still, it's crazy. The problem with this thing is sometimes when it has active code, it's not going to even apply the ground to monitor the circuit. It just shuts everything off completely. So let's go back. The next time, now we're going to do, we are going to cycle the key on and off and then check for the codes. Back in park, let's cycle the key. Back on. Start the car. Boom, lights out. See that? Let's check the codes. Service four-wheel drive. I mean, it's already on, but now this is the key. The lights are out. Display codes. Current codes. There you go. 327, the same one we had before. Encoder circuit. Basically, the same condition we had before. At this point, everything is open, but the computer checks this circuit only momentarily when you turn the key on, and that's it. You will see the ground on the ground circuit. Don't even bother, because you're going to spend 3 days trying to figure out what the heck is going on. That's it. You know, what I'm going to need is change the transfer case and be done. I mean, transfer motor. transfer case motor. I mean, it was I was really close to call the module. I mean, it's really interesting how this worked. So, and yeah, let's go ahead and I mean, now we can beat around the bushes, whatever. Now we can see that this data display, we're still going to see on all of those four. See it on and on and on. And now once we connect everything together, and then we shift it in neutral, then we're going to see that circuit B is going to be off, and that's it. All right, we're back together. All fours are still on. Let's shift it in neutral. All right, so I'm in neutral. I should be able to see now that circuit B pulled down low. Look at this, everything is still on. Now we are in neutral, yet we don't have a ground. Okay, why? It's an active code. We have to clear the codes, and then it's going to apply the ground and do all that other stuff. Okay, so let's go back. Clear codes. Okay, continue. Let's go back to the auto display. And now we should see, look at that. Encoder circuit B is off. Okay, and that's what computer likes. And that's what we did. I'm sorry about the glare, it kind of sucks, but this is the whole point. This thing will not work unless, as long as you have active code. It's not going to apply the ground. It's just really kind of goofy way of this is a proof. When we reconnect the wires, we still did not have this circuit off because it still did not apply, shifted in neutral, it still did not apply the ground because of the active code. Once I clear the codes, resets itself, and now it's working again. Now again, from the get-go, the problem is actually the transfer case motor itself. All right, well, live and learn. Very simple, nothing to it. Very common problem is just the motor itself and the coder. But you want to make sure that your wiring is okay and everything, because these modules are apparently going bad pretty often because there's a whole bunch of those on eBay for sale. But I didn't know which way they fail. Mostly, I would say maybe the circuit that controls the motor itself. So I don't know. But anyhow, this completely threw me off the loop. Took me forever to figure this out. Anyway, I have never seen the circuit. You look at the diagram, you expect to see what you need to see, but it's not there, and it can be very deceiving. I did not read any explanation how the system works. Sometimes you just go with your intuition. Well, this is it. This is what I need to have, and this is how it has to work. It just does not. Now, what I'm still confused is this is automatic system, meaning that you cannot really put it in a 4 high. It will do on its own when it senses that front wheels are spinning. And I've been owning this truck for a good 10 years now, and I had a couple of times happening to me on the icy road. But my confusion right now is it's not monitoring what the transfer case in what mode is in as you drive the truck. I think what it does once I would say the ABS module sends a signal to engage the transfer case, and maybe at that time would apply the ground and check the circuit, make sure everything is good before it deactivates the motor. I don't know, but it's definitely really kind of a goofy system that can really throw you off the loop. I'm not sure if any of you guys had this issue. It's not an issue. This is just the way to work, and I never seen one like this before. And now there's the manual system. It's different. One that you just push the button. It has the potentiometer. You have a constant 5 volt, constant ground, and a signal wire. It's pretty simple. It has to be present the whole time. This one is not. This one is completely different. So anyhow, I'm not sure how long this video is gonna be. I'm not sure when I'm gonna change this motor. If I find something cheap, I'll do it. But it's just a motor that needs to be changed. And again, this is mild winter. I really don't need a four-wheel drive anyway, so I'll be fine. And okay, guys. Well, this one kicked my ass for sure. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.